9 terrifying archaeological discoveries in Egypt that science may never explain. Hello, and welcome to the Ancient History Channel. Dear friends, when we think of ancient Egypt, most of us immediately picture the massive pyramids, mummies preserved for thousands of years, and the powerful pharaohs who once ruled this legendary civilization. But that is only the tip of the iceberg, because beneath the endless golden sands of the Sahara Desert, countless tombs, temples, and ancient artifacts that have never been seen by humanity are still waiting to be discovered. With every excavation season, archaeologists uncover new findings that leave the entire world astonished. Some secrets have remained buried for more than 3,000 years, seemingly destined to be lost forever in the pages of history. Yet, with nothing more than a chance excavation or a modern CT scan, everything we once believed about ancient Egypt can be completely rewritten. Even more fascinating is that the more scientists study this civilization, the more they realize that its achievements went far beyond the imagination of the modern world. From mysterious burial rituals and mummies carrying untold stories, to artifacts whose origins are still debated today, every discovery continues to raise new questions among archaeologists. And there are some discoveries that, despite decades of research, science still cannot provide a truly convincing explanation for. So, what are these discoveries? What secrets are hidden behind them? And how did archaeologists uncover these incredible mysteries? Join us as we explore the 9 most shocking archaeological discoveries in Egypt and uncover the answers right now. 32 monkey skeletons in an ancient cemetery reveal an unbelievable secret of the Roman army. Have you ever imagined that in an ancient cemetery, where only humans were expected to be buried, dozens of monkey skeletons would appear? Probably not, right? I felt the same way. At first, it sounds incredibly strange, but the more you look into it, the more you realize it's absolutely real. And it happened at the port of Berenice, located along Egypt's Red Sea coast, once a bustling trade hub in ancient times. When archaeologists from Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities began excavating an animal cemetery at this site, they initially thought they would find only a few ordinary pet remains. But as they dug deeper, brushing away layer after layer of sand, small skeletons slowly began to emerge. Not one, not two, but a total of 32 skeletons of long-tailed monkeys. All of them were carefully buried in an orderly manner, clearly not the result of animals simply dying and being randomly covered by sand. According to analysis, these remains date back to the 1st and 2nd centuries AD, during the time when Roman troops were present in the area. But what truly surprised scientists wasn't just the number of monkeys, it was how they were treated. You see, these monkeys weren't just buried, they were buried with grave goods, just like humans. In some graves, alongside the monkey remains, researchers found 2 large seashells, a carefully woven basket, and even a folded piece of fabric shaped like a doll. These may seem like small details, but they reveal a great deal. They suggest that these monkeys were not regarded as ordinary animals. It's very likely that Roman soldiers stationed in Berenice kept long-tailed monkeys as pets. But it didn't stop at simply keeping them for amusement. They appear to have formed a deep emotional bond with them, almost like members of their own family. Just think about it. In the harsh environment of an ancient military camp, where war and discipline dominated everything, these soldiers still found the time to care for and show affection toward these small creatures. And when the animals died, they were given proper burials, complete with accompanying items like a heartfelt farewell. Hearing this, doesn't everything suddenly feel a little more human? What's fascinating is that through these burial practices, researchers can sense the level of respect and care the owners had for their pets. The graves were not crude or careless, they were intentionally arranged, showing that this was not a random act, but part of a habit or even a cultural practice. And through that, a very different perspective on the ancient Roman army is revealed. They were not just cold, hardened warriors on the battlefield, they were also human beings capable of love, attachment, and compassion, even toward animals that might seem so unusual to us today. Secret World War II shelter discovered beneath a backyard. Some archaeological discoveries don't require deserts, pyramids, or large-scale excavations. Sometimes, history is simply lying dormant right beneath our feet, hidden within the most ordinary moments of everyday life. Recently, in the quiet town of Southwick in England, A family unexpectedly stumbled upon history when they discovered a World War II shelter hidden beneath their backyard, 3 years after moving into the home. This story, which feels like something straight out of a movie, left not only the homeowners but the entire community in shock. A wartime structure, once a place of life and death refuge, had resurfaced in a modern setting where the past seemed long buried. Catherine Milburn, 32, along with her husband Liam and their 2 young children, had been living in the house since 2021. During those 3 years, they had no idea that an old military structure lay beneath the very ground where their children played, where they gardened, and where they relaxed with afternoon tea. There were no visible signs on the surface to suggest the presence of an underground shelter until they decided to renovate a small shed in the garden. The discovery began when the couple noticed a roughly 10-foot section of concrete beneath the floor of the old structure. As they dug deeper, steel bars began to emerge from the soil. At first unsure of what they were seeing, their curiosity and a growing sense that something wasn't quite right pushed them to continue digging. Catherine later told Jam Press, "We started seeing curved steel sheets, like corrugated metal, nothing like a normal foundation. At that moment, all we could say was, 'Oh my God, what have we just found?'" The deeper they dug, the clearer the structure became. A metal staircase leading downward appeared, along with a narrow tunnel, though it was filled with water. While they couldn't explore further due to flooding and damp conditions, the structure alone was enough for them to reach a surprising conclusion. This was an Anderson shelter. Anderson shelters were a common type of civilian air raid shelter built in Britain in the late 1930s, designed to help families survive intense German bombing raids during World War II. Typically buried about 3 feet underground, they were constructed from curved, corrugated steel panels bolted together for strength and durability. Each shelter could protect up to 6 people, a standard family size at the time. These shelters were where British families spent countless nights during air raids, where children learned to stay silent amid the thunder of bombs, and where resilience and the will to survive were forged during one of the darkest periods of the 20th century. For the Milburn family, this discovery is more than just an unusual find. It is a living piece of history right in their own backyard. Catherine shared that she and her husband are excited about the possibility of preserving and restoring the shelter. They plan to drain the water, clean it, and bring light into the space, possibly even transforming it into a small historical exhibit to educate future generations. Encouragingly, the discovery has also attracted attention from their children's school. The school has expressed interest in organizing educational visits to the shelter, turning it into a kind of home museum where students can gain a deeper understanding of what their ancestors experienced during the war. There may be nothing more powerful than stepping into a real shelter once used to survive bombings, touching the very steel panels that once trembled under the force of air raids. From a chance discovery, this family has uncovered a priceless piece of heritage, a vivid fragment of Britain's wartime past. And what makes it even more remarkable is that this shelter isn't in a museum or a history book. It lies just beneath the ground they walk on every day. This is the unique beauty of archaeology, its ability to bring the past back to life in the present, reminding us that history is not just something that has passed, it is something that still exists, waiting to be uncovered in the most unexpected places. The rarest collection of Egyptian mummy portraits, faces that came back to life after nearly 2,000 years. Dear friends, when we think of Egyptian mummies, most of us imagine coffins covered with layers of linen wrappings, with the remains of people who have rested silently for thousands of years inside. However, there is something you may not know. There is a type of treasure even rarer than the gold, silver, and precious jewels found inside ancient tombs. They are known as mummy portraits, artworks painted while the deceased were still alive and later placed over their faces during the burial process. Each portrait is like a photograph from nearly 2,000 years ago, allowing future generations to see the actual appearance of people who once lived in ancient Egypt. And what is truly astonishing is that after more than a century with almost no significant discoveries, archaeologists have unexpectedly uncovered another rare collection of these priceless artworks. The excavation site was located in the ancient city of Philadelphia, in the Fayum region of Egypt, approximately 75 miles southwest of Cairo. The city was founded during the Ptolemaic period between 304 and 30 BC and once served as an important agricultural center of the Egyptian kingdom. It was also a place where native Egyptians and Greeks lived side by side, creating a unique cultural exchange between two great civilizations. It was this special environment that gave rise to the famous artistic style now known by archaeologists as Fayum mummy portraits. During excavations at the ancient cemetery of Philadelphia, archaeologists discovered two complete portraits, along with several other portraits that were either partially finished or still in the process of being created. This was an extremely rare discovery because most mummy portraits of this type disappeared long ago. Bassem Gehad, the head of the excavation team, explained that the individuals buried with such valuable portraits almost certainly belonged to the middle or upper classes of Egyptian society during the Roman period. Because, as you know, hiring an artist to paint a portrait on high-quality wooden panels and placing it with a mummy was something that not every family could afford. According to experts, these paintings were most likely created by artists from Alexandria, the famous Mediterranean port city of Egypt, which was once the greatest cultural and artistic center in the region. What fascinates researchers the most is that these portraits carried a Greek artistic style, but were used in Egyptian burial rituals. This is clear evidence of the blending between two civilizations that existed nearly 2,000 years ago. Unfortunately, the number of surviving mummy portraits today is extremely limited. The last major discovery of this kind took place during the 1880s. During the 19th century, many ancient cemeteries, including the Cemetery of Philadelphia, were heavily looted by tomb robbers. Instead of caring about the mummies or burial objects, these thieves only took the portraits and sold them to European collectors for extremely high prices. As a result, hundreds of priceless artworks were removed from Egypt and scattered across museums and private collections around the world. According to Susan Walker, an expert from the Ashmolean Museum at the University of Oxford in the United Kingdom, most of the stolen portraits were later sold to Austrian art dealer Theodor Graf. Today, these works are preserved in many museums and private collections throughout Europe and North America. She also believes that new excavations at Philadelphia will help archaeologists better understand the cemetery where these mummies and unique artworks were buried, allowing researchers to reconstruct a clearer picture of social life in Egypt during the Greco-Roman period. Sacrificed children's skeletons with extracted hearts discovered in Peru. On October 7th, in the arid lands near Huanchaco, Peru, archaeologists dug into what seemed like an ordinary mound of earth, only to uncover one of the most haunting discoveries in human history. Not gold, not treasure, but 76 children's skeletons lying silently beneath the soil for hundreds of years. What terrified experts was not just the sheer number of remains, but the precise cut across the sternum visible on each skeleton, a clean incision suggesting deliberate action. According to anthropologist Gabriel Prieto, this indicates that the children's chests were likely opened to remove their hearts, a sacrificial ritual so chilling that it's enough to make anyone shiver. But the story doesn't end there. Preliminary examinations revealed that these children were not buried randomly. All were laid with their feet pointing east, atop an artificial mound. Why east? Was it symbolic of the rising sun, or part of a spiritual ritual still beyond human understanding? Scientists admit they do not yet have answers, and it remains one of humanity's enduring mysteries. And if 76 seems shocking, the reality is even more terrifying. Over years of excavation at Pampa La Cruz, archaeologists discovered a total of 323 child sacrificial victims. Nearby at Las Llamas, they found an additional 137 children and 3 adults, all showing signs of heart extraction. You might now be asking, what happened in this region that led hundreds or possibly over 1,000 children to die in this manner? Research indicates these victims lived between 1100 and 1200 CE during the peak of the Chimu culture in the area. Notably, the burial mound contained unusual artifacts, such as silver and copper pieces that may have been sewn onto the children's clothing, along with ear ornaments and spondylus shells. Interestingly, these spondylus shells are not native to the region, originating instead from northern lands once under the Lambayeque civilization. In ancient times, spondylus shells were considered even more valuable than gold. This suggests a surprising possibility. These children may have come from another region. Further analysis revealed that all victims showed signs of cranial modification, a cultural practice starting in early childhood. While the Chimu also practiced cranial shaping, the intensity here was extreme, leading researchers to believe that these children originated from Lambayeque and were brought to Pampa La Cruz after their homeland was conquered. They may have been relocated, along with their families, to work on the irrigation systems crucial for Chimu agricultural expansion in the arid region. Once the construction was completed, the children became sacrificial offerings. What was the purpose? Some scientists suggest it was a way to divinize the agricultural system, praying for good harvests. Others believe it was humanity's response to harsh environmental changes, particularly El Niño events, which could cause severe floods or droughts. Human sacrifice was not uncommon in the Andes, but what makes Pampa La Cruz extraordinary is its scale. This was no single ritual. It was systematic, organized, and sustained over time. Of course, these remain preliminary hypotheses, not final conclusions. So, what could have led an entire civilization to sacrifice hundreds of children? Religious beliefs, desperation against nature, or something deeper that history still hides? Share your thoughts below so we can discuss together. The giant pharaoh, Senakht, the nearly 6'7" tall king, who ruled Egypt more than 5,000 years ago. When we think of the pharaohs of ancient Egypt, we usually imagine powerful kings wearing magnificent clothing and the iconic crowns that represented their supreme authority. But few people know that ancient Egyptian history may have also included a ruler who was known as a giant. That ruler was Pharaoh Senakht. According to numerous archaeological studies, he may have stood nearly 6'7" tall, a height that seems almost unimaginable for a person who lived more than 5,000 years ago. Senakht is believed to have been a king of Egypt's third dynasty during the Old Kingdom period, ruling approximately 5,000 years ago. However, information about him remains extremely limited. Unlike famous pharaohs such as Djoser or Ramesses II, Senakht's name appears only sporadically in a few ancient records and surviving archaeological artifacts. Because of this, even his exact position within the timeline of Egyptian rulers remains a subject of debate among Egyptologists to this day. According to the writings of historian Manetho and the Turin King List, Senakht may have ruled for around 18 years. However, many scholars believe that this number is still not supported by enough evidence to be confirmed. Some experts even question whether he was truly the founder of the Third Dynasty, as some ancient records have suggested. The reason is that recent excavations at Abydos, Egypt, have revealed new evidence showing that the history of this period was far more complex than previously believed. What makes Senakht especially fascinating is not only his mysterious identity, but also the skeleton believed to have belonged to him. In 1901, during excavations at Beit Khalaf in Soha Governorate, southern Egypt, archaeologists discovered the remains of a male skeleton with unusually large proportions. The skeleton was found near Tomb K2, a location where several relief fragments bearing the name Senakht had previously been discovered. Because of this connection, many researchers believe that these remains may belong to the mysterious pharaoh. After multiple analyses, experts determined that the individual represented by the skeleton had a height of nearly 6'7". Today, such a height may not seem extraordinary. However, more than 5,000 years ago, when the average height of Egyptian men was only around 5'6", this individual would have been an extremely rare exception. According to Michael Habicht, an Egyptologist from the Institute of Evolutionary Medicine at the University of Zurich in Switzerland, this significant difference in height makes Senakht a unique case in the history of human anthropology. But the research did not stop there. Habicht and his colleagues continued examining the skull and long bones of the remains. The results showed signs of excessive bone growth, a characteristic commonly associated with gigantism caused by abnormalities in growth hormone production. This conclusion suggests that Senakht was not only one of the tallest pharaohs ever known, but may also represent one of the earliest known cases of ancient gigantism in human history. This discovery holds special importance for modern medicine because it helps scientists better understand how this condition developed and changed throughout thousands of years of human history. However, many mysteries still remain unanswered. To this day, the true location of Senakht's royal tomb has not been confirmed. Some archaeologists believe that Tomb K2 at Beit Khalaf may have been his final resting place because relief fragments bearing Senakht's name were discovered there. Meanwhile, other experts argue that the size and architectural style of the structure are more consistent with the tomb of a prince, a high-ranking official, or another member of the royal family rather than a pharaoh. The lack of historical records combined with inconsistent archaeological evidence has made Senakht one of the most mysterious figures in ancient Egyptian history. Perhaps he truly was a powerful ruler whose name was largely lost to time. Or perhaps history accidentally erased much of the evidence surrounding his reign. So, what do you think is the most likely answer? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and let's discuss this fascinating mystery together.